Hey, welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. Because let's be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. It doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality type. You can create a pretty amazing life in sales. Today's guest, definitely not a stranger to that journey. I'm very excited to hear more of her story. We've got Mariana Henninger, I believe. I didn't butcher that, did I?
It's all good. Yes, Mariana Henninger. I usually just go by Mariana, and then I say my company name, Brand Magnetic, and I just joke that I'm married to my company, so that's my last name. So you're fine.
Fair enough. I have a whole funnier story to go along with that. Maybe we'll have time to tap into it, but it's not about my story. I want to hear your crazy sales story.
I think it is going to sound very familiar to a lot of folks. I think it's crazy that this happens so often. So that's the crazy part of the story. So if you're listening to this podcast and you want to make it really interactive, raise your hand if you have signed up for a bunch of different lead magnets, because the algorithm knows you super well. You get bombarded with stuff all of the time. It's too juicy to pass up, especially if we're like starting in business or when we were starting in business. And all of a sudden, when people start hitting your inbox, you're like, who the heck are you? Like, how did you get here? Who gave you permission to be in my inbox? I don't remember what I signed up for, who you are, what you do. And that's essentially the story that kicked off why I do what I do, is because I think that we are wasting so much effort with our entire, sales process, taking months and months and months of building trust over time, when in fact we should capitalize on that initial moment when people are actually wanting to check us out, wanting to know who we are. When we hook them, that's when we should impress upon them who we are, so that they never again think like, who the heck are you? And so to me, that's the crazy part, is that we just assume that it takes months and months and months to build trust. We've just accepted that as a fact of doing business online, when in fact you can accelerate your sales process by creating a very intimate, strong personal connection that builds trust top of funnel.
I mean,
maybe not as silly as you thought.
No, it's silly in the sense that I agree with you, and also I'm thinking about the thousands of emails that are in that spam email account that I never actually check, that I send all the lead magnets to, and I'm just thinking like, I wonder how many of those spam email accounts I have in my database from people that saw an ad and just put their name in there to get my free book download or whatever it was at some point. And
wait, are you hitting spam on people that you sign up for? You're marking them as spam?
No, I don't mark people so I don't do that to people, because I don't want people to mark me as spam.
Totally.
But
okay.
I know for sure. Yeah. No, I wouldn't do that, because I'll even reach out to my friends and say, hey,
That's
I like you too much to
right.
I don't want to mark you as unsubscribe or spam. So just take me out of your mailing list so that I don't have to do that. Respectfully.
Let's do it nicely.
Because you're right. That is one of those things. And so what I'd be curious to know is what was it for you? Was it were you the one that had a bajillion lead magnets, or were you someone who was like, wait, I'm starting to recognize that this is a big issue?
Oh, I was in it, my friend. I was the lead magnet hoarder. I think when you're starting out in the online business space, I had spent 15 years doing documentaries, only loving the idea of marketing, learning little bits about it, learning little bits of sales. But when I got in it, I shut everything off, and I'm like, I am in this space right now. All I consume is digital marketing. And the algorithm picked up on that so quickly. Here's this girl who's completely invested. She's spending money. She's spending the time. She's making the connection. She's going into the group. She's interacting with people. And so it was surfacing the best ads in front of me. It was my friends were shooting me bundles, and I'm like, I must have everything here because everything sounds amazing. It's stuff that you do when you're beginning in sales, when you haven't really become a lot more discerning of what you actually need and when. Discerning also of your time. You don't want to spend your time not only gathering this stuff, but then dealing with the junk in your inbox. And by junk, it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not relevant to you, not what you need right now. And so it was 100% my experience. It's actually a mini story that I tell in all of my webinars and all of my trainings. And people are like, oh my gosh, yes, I either remember that depending on where they are in business, or like I'm in it. And I think on the flip side of that, Drewby, like as people who are nourishing their leads, we don't want to be that person who people think like, wait, who the heck are you? I don't remember you. Like, what are you doing here? And the one way to really combat that is to know how to tell your story in a way that effectively creates a feeling in this person where they're not only connected to you, they really just remember who you are and they like you, right? We're accelerating know, like, and trust by knowing how to tell your brand story in a way that's effective, that breaks through the noise, and that creates that connection top of funnel.
I absolutely love that. And to me, I think about, a great way to kind of like explain this to someone who's maybe not super marketing nerdy like we are, because I too just love marketing. It's one of the most fascinating things in the planet. But, if you were to walk into a store that has clothes, there's a lot of different brands that exist. And so when you're new and you've never been to the store, you go and you try on a bunch of things, and maybe you buy a couple and you wear them out, and you're like, oh, I liked it in the store, but all of a sudden it doesn't fit right out in public. And what I've learned is that when you're new to entrepreneurship, you're kind of learning from all these different brands because they've all kind of found their voice and they have that authenticity. And when you aren't confident in yourself, you're like, all right, well, what are they doing that's working? And what is this guy doing? What is this lady doing? And,
Right.
they're saying they're making tens of thousands of dollars a day. Like, I want to make tens of thousands. Like, so you're just trying to find what fits for you. And what I love about brand, and I'm going to steal a quote from Jeff Bezos because he said it better than anyone I've ever said, but he says, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And I think that brand magnetic is such an awesome name for a company because that's what happens. When you create a strong brand, it is magnetic. People are attracted to you. And so much energy comes from you that people want to talk about you when you're not around. So how do you
Right.
help people understand and dial in on that so that they are creating a true brand where I'm going to hold that next question. Let's start with that.
Yeah. Wait, is that the question you want me to answer right now?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
how do you help people get started with brand? I have a follow-up question to that, but
Oh, I
like how do
got
you
you. I
get
got
people
you.
started
Yeah.
with brand?
Yeah. Yeah. Drew, it's funny because you used an analogy now that I've never heard of. That it makes so much sense in terms of like you're trying things on for size. You're trying to see like where do I fit? Like what feels right to me? Who do I ultimately want to belong to? Right? The best
It's called
brands
tribe.
create a sense of belonging. Right? Tribe, if you want to use that word. It essentially like we want to feel like we're part of that movement. The best brands create a movement around them because they stand for something. But we're thinking Nike, we're thinking Apple, all these brands that seem like they sell things. What they actually sell is a movement, belonging, values. Right? When you buy a Nike shoe, you're buying way more than a shoe, right? Anyway, so this other story that I like to tell is a skit by Borat. That you may or may not remember. It wasn't his most popular skit, but it's essentially I can't remember even who he's pretending to be, like some sort of foreign diplomat or something. And he's walking through an American supermarket with the manager of that supermarket. There's literally an entire wall of just shredded cheese. That's all it is. It's like top to bottom shredded cheese, like the entire thing. It's a 4-minute skit, Drewy. And the entire time, all Borat is doing is like, what is this? And the guy's like, that's cheese. And this, that's cheese. What is this? Cheese. Cheese, 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 cheese. That's all it is, right? And I love this story because it's such a perfect visual of what happens to you when you don't stand out. The first thing you need to do is stand out, is like call their attention, stand out, and then knowing how to tell your story in a way that's not about you. I like to use the word brand story. It might not even be the best sort of terminology. The idea is that it's a story that's curated to make your audience feel something and ultimately feel connected to you, create this placement in their minds of who you are. Ideally, the placement is you're the go-to for that thing, right? So it's a combination of authority. It's a combination of expertise. You know what you're doing. But more importantly, there are actually like 4 trust triggers that I talk about. The first trust trigger is that they should feel like you get them. Again, it's all about them. It's all about your audience. They should feel like you get them. They should feel like you care about them. wholeheartedly. And this is where I always talk about like folks online who love to like, show screenshots of their Stripe accounts. And I'm like, dude, I'm not a number on your Stripe account. Like, this doesn't work for me. I get that you're successful, but ultimately you're successful because you're probably selling coaching to the very people who are looking at that Stripe account and are going to become a number on that Stripe account. Like, that doesn't work for me. It might work for other people, but I want to know that you actually care about me and my success, that you have really poured energy into what you're selling and that you believe in it. Whether you're selling it for somebody, whether it's your thing or you're the salesperson for somebody else, whatever the case may be, you have to believe in that thing, that it actually gets people results versus just make you money. The third trust trigger is that you vibe, that your personality fits, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Actually, I'm sorry. The third one that I like to talk about is the expertise part of it. So that you've got me. So I get you. I care about you. You've got me because you're an expert. Like, what you're telling me is true and your thing actually works. So the expertise and the experience, the credentials, the authority, they kind of all fit in that number 3. And it's in that order for a reason. People want to care. They want to know that you care first. They want to know that you get them first. And then they're willing to look at your expertise in that context of like, you're actually somebody that I trust a little bit. And you're an expert? Okay, we're moving forward here. We're making progress. And the fourth one is that we vibe, that our personalities are a good match, that I can actually see myself working with you to get to the results that you promise. I can actually see your thing working for me. There's a like factor there, right? There's a reason why we like to choose businesses, not only whose values we align with, but who we can enjoy and that we belong to because we like them as well. And so those are the 4 trust triggers that I talk about that are really important to hit when you're sharing your brand story. And I just wanted to add one more thing that's really important in terms to all of this answers that question that you just said, like, how do we build this brand, right? It's a big question. So like 4 trust triggers is a really important part of that. The second thing that I really talk about is what I call the instant trust test. So think about this. When people come across a name, so let's say I came across your name, whether somebody referred me to your podcast, whether I saw you somewhere, I saw your comment, I landed on your Instagram profile, whatever the case may be. Think about what most of us do. We take some time to actually check out that person. We're doing this in the anonymity, the privacy of anonymity. We don't want to be talked to. We don't want to be sold to. Like, I just want to figure you out a little bit, right? This is the most important moment in marketing that we do not talk about, Drewby, which is like this moment we need to capitalize on to create that connection. This is when we don't have to reach out to people. It's magnetic. They've come to us. They've come to our About Me page, which is the second most visited page on your website. They've come to your profile and they're checking out your pin posts. They're kind of seeing they're trying to build a mental picture of who you are. And we don't think about what picture that is because we're like, okay, well, you're in my world. And it's going to take about a couple months at least for me to earn your trust. When in fact, if we tell our story and hit those 4 trust triggers, we are putting ourselves way ahead of the curve. We're accelerating that trust process so that it takes a lot less time for people to buy from us. And, I have a bunch of case studies from my clients, from my students who've used their brand video, obviously video being such an awesome tool to do that, to create that trust, to get those people sold on them before they are even sold to. And that's, to me, like the best part of building a brand.
Oh, you teed this up so perfectly for me, Mariana, because like I told you I had a follow-up question, and this is one that I don't want to say I've argued, but like we have discussed at length amongst some of my peers and cohorts. What is the difference between branding and marketing?
Marketing is all about what you say about yourself. And to me, branding is how people feel about you. And hopefully there's hopefully those things are hand in hand. But if you don't do marketing, people won't hear about you to even have an opinion about your brand. That would be like my best. I've never really thought about it, if I'm being honest, Ruby. Like I'm just doing it, right? I'm just like, to me, they're very connected in that, like, I feel like branding is a part of marketing. It's a part of establishing yourself in the marketplace, of getting yourself out there. You do it with your branding as well. So I mean, somebody might have a better distinction, maybe Seth Godin or something, but to me, it's like I focus on building that relationship, whatever that looks like.
No, I think you're right. I think that to me, I've always looked at it as the brand is what you said. It's that feeling inside that someone gets when they think about you. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, that thing, that brand reminds me of XYZ. If I grab a Nike shoe, I think Michael Jordan, or I think about that time that I ran a
Or you feel
marathon or
that, right?
whatever, right? Like
You
yeah,
feel
that's
all those awesome
internal.
things. Mm-hmm.
And where marketing is the cheese skid is perfect for this, right? If I walk up and there's a wall of cheese, what is the first thing that I'm going to do? I'm going to look at it visually, and I'm going to look for the thing that stands out in the crowd. So like marketing to me is like, what are you doing to make your brand
Mm,
stand out? What's that thing that you do that differentiates your story? Because let's be honest, a lot of
right.
let's go right to the start of this. Hey, how many people did the same thing that I did, have the same story I do as far as downloading all these things and go like we have very similar stories. So the brands can be very similar, right? There's a lot of brands out there that have similar stories. You're like, man, that's crazy how similar they are. Maybe they made it up just to be similar to like sell, or maybe that's just there's a lot of similar stories. But the marketing is what you do to separate your brand, you, from every other competitor that has something similar. And that to me is like the cool thing about branding that I think so many people miss
Mm,
is and this is a lot of like again, a lot of marketers we see will tell you gotta brand doesn't matter, just like go sell, just like run ads and sell stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, you can do
I think
that, but if you want to
brand
create
matters more
long
and more and
term,
more. Yeah.
yes. Go ahead. Tell me about like what is it that branding does so much differently that creates the lifetime value versus that
Oh,
one-time purchase?
for sure. I mean, if you think about all of the really insane high earners, right? Like the folks like the Ryan Reynolds and the Kardashians and like all these folks who created a brand first and then sold products on the back end of that, Mr. Beast, if you will, right? All of,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like obviously citing these massive examples, and this can be done at a much lower level very successfully as well. The point of it is establishing trust. And you can do that by showing up consistently time and time again and over months and months and months. I call that microdosing your audience because a lot of folks will show up online as the expert, as like, let me teach you all of these tips and tricks and like, let me show you how good I am at this. And even if that language, following the story brand formula is like formulated towards like, you are the hero, it's about your transformation, but it's still it's kind of transactional, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you are just showing up giving value, all you're doing is creating a transactional relationship, which will still get you some sales, right? But to me, the most important thing or the thing that builds the most trust is this idea that I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. There are three types of buyers. One that buys from you without knowing you. So think of like a really low ticket ad that you might have gotten for something where the copy is really good. And you're like, okay, this solves a super specific pain point that I'm actually like, this is me in this copy. This thing costs, $27, whatever the case may be. I'm just going to buy. I have no idea who it is. I can't tell you like when I'm doing my end of the year taxes, like back in the day, right? When I was starting my business, I was like, oh yeah, I downloaded that cheat sheet. Like, where the heck is that? Oh yeah, I don't like I paid for this thing.
27,
I can't
97, 47,
right?
97,
All of the
297. Oh
sevens.
my God.
All of the
Yes.
little sevens belong in that group.
Yep.
The second type of buyer is the person who if they are super persuasive, they can get you to buy something. So most people, will fall into this category selling online because they've made themselves known to their audience by showing up consistently, by having that authority content, yada, yada, by sending the emails. So their audience like knows them. And if they're really good, if they like nail their webinar, if they nail their thing, their copy, their messaging, whatever the case may be, they can make some sales, right? But if you think about the third type of buyer, is the buyer that will buy from someone that they trust. You don't have to be persuasive. Robert Cialdini talks about priming your audience. Like the thing that you say before you say it is actually more important than the thing you say. Like the state of mind that you create in your audience before you actually sell them something is way more important than how you sell them something. And to me, that comes from building that relationship over not just over time, but doing it right. Ideally, like what I like to do with my clients and students is to accelerate that building of that relationship, doing it top of funnel when things are fresh, when you can actually like really capitalize on that instant trust check. And by doing that, you have now established a relationship of trust from the get-go. So every time you show up, each piece of content has a lot more impact, has a lot more ROI because people are paying attention a whole lot more. And so if you can get people to pay attention to you each time you show up way more than they would otherwise, how much more impactful is each piece of content that you put out there? And so by establishing that relationship of trust right away, you don't have to rely on being persuasive anymore. You don't have to, you can actually beat like the best copy in the world and all the tricks in the book by being somebody who has now established a relationship with them and has become a person of trust. People will buy from people they trust, regardless of whether they're persuasive or not.
I can't agree more. And honestly, we could probably sit here and nerd out on this for like the next 4 or 5 hours because this, again, I love marketing. I think branding is its own beast within that because it's about the long term, not just the immediate. And so, what's the best way for us to come and find you to learn more about Brand Magnetic? Like, how do we come check you
Yeah.
out?
For sure. So I'm on Instagram at Brand Magnetic. I love to hear from folks who hear me on a podcast. Come say hello, send me a quick voice note, a quick message, and I will reply back that way. If you're curious about learning how to tell your story in a way that actually converts people and creates that trust, I have a resource for you. It's brandmagnetic.com/cheat sheet. Now, if you follow this, this is interesting. I don't usually mention this, but what happens when you download that lead magnet is the very next email you're going to get, you should pay attention to that email. It's how I connect with you right away. What I do essentially, and this is what I teach my students to do, is that it's an email that tells my story. There's a lot to my story. I have a brand video, I have an Emmy. I started entrepreneurship when I was anyway. So that email is basically my story interspersed with gifts of my brand video and a call to action to respond. I get so many responses, Drewby, from that email. I get essentially, think about this, cold audiences that have just met me either maybe on a podcast, but either way, they've just gotten onto my email list somehow. They've not really been with me for that long at all. They're responding to my email. Like if you can get responses from absolutely cold leads, you're on the right track. You're doing something right. And this is what I teach in terms of hitting those trust triggers right off the bat.
You sound like an expert because you are an expert from everything I've heard. And this is why I love chatting with people like yourself because Mariana, there's so many different amazing ways to create success. Branding, marketing, sales, it's all intertwined and you have to understand it in order to be able to excel in it. So anyone who is here today just got an absolute masterclass on branding. I highly recommend you go check out that resource. I don't want to be that guy from the start of the episode, but like good chance I'm going to have to go and get that lead magnet so that I can read the email, so that I can learn the things, because ultimately the best way to get better is to actually go and execute on the things that you're learning. So go check her out, follow her stuff, watch the story, learn some things, and then use that to go generate some more leads so you can pick them up and call the damn things. Like that's what it is, right? It's all a big process about getting in front of the right people at the right time.
Drew, I know we're over time. I have to tell this one quick story. I'm so sorry. Feel free to cut it off if we're like totally over time here. There's a story in a book called The Visual Sale that I think is perfect for your audience. And the story goes like this. It's actually by the author, one of the authors of that book, who used to own pool company. He used to sell pools. He used to be a pool salesman. And what he would do is, he would people would set up an appointment with the pool guy. I think his name is, I have the book over here. I think his name is Andrew. Darn it. I don't remember. I think it's Andrew, but sorry. The author from this book. Yes. So people would set up an appointment with a pool guy and he would show up. He would show up at the door and the kid would yell, "Hey, mom, dad, it's the pool guy." So he would have this whole conversation. Just imagine a typical sales process, right? We're very familiar with this. What he started doing is priming his audience. He realized, like, he learned this whole process, and he started priming his audience by sending them what to me is kind of the equivalent of a brand video. So this is my world, right? Brand videos. I've never watched this thing. I'm assuming it's a brand video by how he described it. Drewby, the story is so amazing. The second he started sending that ahead of time, he went from being the pool guy, random pool guy who showed up at people's doors, to being, "Mom and Dad, the guy from the video is here." And then one day, "Mom and Dad," I think his name is Mike, actually, "Mike from the video is here." So all of a sudden he went from just being like this random salesperson to being Mike, who people had connected with. And lo and behold, he was like closing way more deals as a result. So priming your audience is, if you walk away with nothing from this episode, priming your audience is the most important thing you can do to accelerate sales. Prime your leads before you call the damn leads.
Amen. Thank you for sharing that story. That was for me more than the listener, I think, because I wrote that down, and that's one of those things that I often think about with the Call the Damn Leads brand, because my big goal is that it's way bigger than just me in the future, because it's a movement for everyone. And if you're here listening to this and you learned something about branding, share this episode on social media and tag us. Let us know you enjoyed it, that you got some value. Send it to somebody who has a really crappy brand so that they can get better. Send it to someone who doesn't have any brand at all so that they can start building it, because ultimately, at the end of the day, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And if you want more people to say awesome things about you, it's time to start working on your brand. So go follow Mariana. Go check out the show. Head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your story about your brand so that we can bring you on the show and talk about all the awesome things that you've done from carving out a life in sales. Mariana, thank you again. We'll see you on the next one.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dewey.